This video is a part of a series that helps dinghy sailors onto the path to becoming bareboat charter skippers. The entire series is contained in this playlist here. If you have any comments or feedback for us, please share them and help make the next video that much better. Enjoy! On to boat handling. It's funny, we're at a sailing club and I'm going to talk about boat handling, but realistically, most of the boats that you're going to charter are just as good at being motorboats than they are as being sailboats. And in fact, probably all of the sailing skills, or 90% of the sailing skills that you're going to need for a bareboat charter, you've already gotten here at Community Boating if you've spent a lot of time on sonars. Really, most of the rest of the skills are not going to be specific to sailboats. They could just be considered general seamanship and would be equally applicable to powerboats. And in fact, if it gets really bad, if conditions get really terrible out there, which they probably won't because it's the British Virgin Islands, but if they do, pretend you're on a powerboat. Put the sails down, motor to shelter, go down below and pray. All right. Boat handling under sail. So just one slide on sailing. I recommend that you experience sailing on a 35-foot or larger boat in conditions where there's 25 knots or more of wind. I kind of think that's when I presented this to the committee that helped me come up with these slides, I started out with a 40-foot boat and 35 knots of wind, but they thought that was a little extreme. Basically, the more time that you get in heavy wind, the better. You're going to want to learn how to reef the boat while it's sailing. You're going to want to learn how to reef the boat using the engine in case you have to do that. Sorry? Reef means to shorten sail such that when the wind is really strong, you have less sail up and the boat is less powered up. I'm pretty sure that the sonars have reefing points now. They didn't used to when I was... Sorry? Oh, okay.
Your sonar red tests that require reef.
Well, there you go. Okay. So basically you're shortening sail so that you're not as overpowered as you once were. You'll still be pretty powered up. Personally, I actually spent most of my time at Community Boating years ago, and the sonars at the time did not have reefing points, so I never actually reefed a sonar in my entire sailing career. Whereas most of the time when I go out sailing on big boats, I've had to put a reef in at some point. Granted, I'm kind of a wind junkie, so I only tend to go out when it's really windy, but reefing is something that you do very regularly on big boats, and it's not something that you do very regularly on small keel boats and dinghies in my experience. Okay, I talked about the engine. Coming back to saying, a 40-foot boat in 35 knots or more, what I'm getting at is I would like anyone who's going to be my skipper for a bareboat charter, I would like to have experienced conditions where you have to put away an entire sail, where carrying the jib and the main is just too much sail for your conditions, and the best course of action is to put one or the other away. Almost always on boats with modern sloop rigs, you wind up putting away the mainsail and just using the jib. Maybe if you just took the Jib 2 class, you might be like, well, how do you balance the boat then? Trust me, the physics play out. It does work. And when you experience it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Finally, if you get the chance to, if you know you're going to go out and it's going to be windy, you've been watching the forecast, put your reefs in early. Put them in the morning and then sail out there. And if you need to shake them out, go ahead. But it's better to have a little bit too little sail than way too much. Questions on that part? Sure.
Are jibs, in your experience, do you usually find roller reefers roller reefing systems?
I've never been on a charter boat that didn't have a roller furler. All the boats from the Sunsail and Moorings fleet are going to be at most like 7 years old.
Yeah, I think 7.
And the newer ones are going to be like last year's model. Everything has a roller furler. In fact, half the time they have a roller furling main. Any other questions? All right. Definitely, I want to reiterate this. Time skippering keel boats, especially sonars, and mercuries here on the river in big wind is definitely valuable. You know, spend time out there when it's windy, and you'll be prepared for you'll be more prepared when that squall rolls through and you're out sailing in the British Virgin Islands. Okay, maneuvering under power. So, like I said, these boats are better. Oh, everyone's laughing at that. Good, you're supposed to laugh at that. So, most of these boats are just as good at power boats as they are sailboats. And you're not gonna bring them up to the mooring. You're not gonna anchor them. You're not gonna bring them to the dock. Any close maneuvering situation, you're gonna put the sails down. You're gonna drive it like a car, or at least as much like a car as it's gonna behave. When you're underway, when you're making way, you know, you're pretty far from any kind of obstructions. It basically drives like a car. You can pretty consistently, you just drive it, and it goes pretty much where you turn the wheel. When you slow it down, it doesn't drive like a car at all anymore. Especially when you get close to like big rocky things or docks or, you know, concrete pilings. All of a sudden it starts to drive all over the place. And I like to say it parks like a car on an icy hill with no brakes. Just imagine for a minute if every time you parallel parked, you weren't able to use the brake and you weren't able to stop the car except by rubbing it up against the curb. Okay, this is what we're talking about here. So just, anyway, so let's start with the easy stuff. All right, mooring under power. The nice thing for you guys is that mooring under power is a lot easier than mooring under sail. So anybody who's, especially in that little tiny mooring field. So if you've got experience putting those sonars on a mooring, you're gonna be okay getting on these moorings in the British Virgin Islands. So that'll be easy. I mean, I still recommend that you practice, but it's definitely easy. You know, it's nice to have reverse. If you come in a little too hot, you slow it down. If you come up a little short, you just put a little gas in, you know, hit the throttle a little bit and you pull right up to the mooring. You look really good doing it too. The one thing that I will emphasize is that you should learn how to tie on. You definitely, whenever you tie onto a mooring, and they do this here at CBI, so they don't let you do it any other way. Any line that goes down to the mooring needs to come up back to the mooring in the exact same way. It's through the same chalk, onto the same cleat, because if you tie on such that, like this, for example, you go out this chalk, down to the mooring, up back around to the other side of the chalk, what's gonna happen is your line is gonna spend all night, here's the mooring hook, your line is gonna spend all night going, wee, seesaw, and it's gonna cut right through it, and then like these people, you're gonna wake up in the morning with a bunch of your neighbors screaming, "What are you doing hitting my boat?" And these guys are tying, this is them tying back on. They tied on the same way the night before, and in the morning when I woke up, they were drifting away. Actually, they weren't drifting away because they were stuck on the boat behind them. And they did the same thing again. And in fact, this gentleman here, his job, he works for the company that owns these moorings, and he let him do it. He let him tie on wrong again. So don't count on the people who work for these companies to know what's the right way to do it. Hello again. Thank you for watching this video. If you've appreciated this content, please let us know with a thumbs up or down in the comments so that we're encouraged to make our next presentation into a video as well. These take us a little bit of production time. We had to convince some of our friends to help out, borrow some gear and rent some other gear. But if you guys find it useful, we'll take the time and make our next presentation into a video as well. Oh, speaking of, if you're looking for the next video in the series, it's right here. Thank you, Seagull. This is the awkward pause. I don't know what else to say. Go to the next video. Hurry up and click. It's getting weird.